Hey there, my fellow anglers and fishing fanatics. Your friend and fishing expert is back with another crucial forecast, and today we're diving deep into the waters of glorious Australia for Wednesday, the 7th of January 2026. Now, many of you might be thinking, January in Australia, that means scorching sun and lazy fish. And you wouldn't be entirely wrong, my friends, but this particular day holds some intriguing secrets, especially with those abnormally warm ocean temperatures we've been seeing. So stick around, because I'm going to tell you why this summer day could be surprisingly fruitful for some species and what you absolutely need to know to make your lines sing. First up, let's talk about the absolute powerhouses of our summer waters, the kingfish, or yellowtail amberjack. January is prime time for these brutes along the coast, especially around Sydney and other metropolitan areas where they push close to shore and even into river systems. Look for them around headlands, offshore reefs, and channel markers where baitfish congregate. The warmer water, averaging around 22 to 25 degrees Celsius in places like Sydney, keeps them active and feeding aggressively. You'll often find them patrolling current lines and bait schools, so keep an eye out for surface busts. For kingfish, heavy spinning or jigging gear is your best bet. Live bait like squid or slimy mackerel under a float can be deadly. If you're into artificials, fast-retrieved stick baits, poppers, and large metal jigs will get their attention. Remember, these fish hit hard, so make sure your knots are solid and your drag is set right. My little trick: don't be afraid to cast right into the boil when you see them feeding on the surface. That's when they're least wary. Next, for those who love the thrill of the open ocean, the pelagic predators are out in force. January is prime season for Spanish mackerel, spotted mackerel, mahi-mahi, yellowfin tuna, and even sailfish, particularly along the eastern and northern coasts. These speedsters follow the warm blue currents, which are running hotter than average this summer, pushing them closer to the coast and local reef systems. Look for temperature breaks, current lines, and crucially, signs of baitfish schools or diving birds. The water temperatures, hitting 30 degrees Celsius in places like Katoomba, are screaming "feed me" to these top-tier hunters. For these guys, high-speed trolling with skirted lures or hard-bodied minnows is incredibly effective. If you spot them on the surface, casting metal slugs or stick baits into the fray can result in explosive strikes. For tuna, particularly the smaller school tuna, jigging with metal jigs or casting soft plastics around bait balls works wonders. Remember, they're chasing fast-moving prey, so a quick retrieve is key. My advice: have a few different lure types rigged and ready, because they can be picky on the day. Now, for something a bit more refined, but equally rewarding, let's talk about the delicious King George whiting. While often associated with cooler waters in Australia's summer, particularly from December to March, these fantastic table fish thrive in the warmer bay waters, especially around Melbourne. They'll be active in shallower areas, often around sandbanks, seagrass beds, and patchy weed beds in sheltered bays and estuaries. The water temperature in places like Melbourne, around 20 degrees Celsius, is perfect for them. For whiting, light tackle is your friend. A simple paternoster rig with small hooks and fresh bait like peepees, small strips of squid, or even prawns will do the trick. A running sinker rig can also be effective. Fish during incoming tides, especially around dawn or dusk when they're most actively feeding. Cast near structure or over those sandy patches adjacent to weed. A little trick I've learned is to regularly move your bait slightly, just enough to stir up a puff of sand. It often attracts their attention. Finally, a year-round favorite that's always worth targeting, the flathead. While January might be considered a low season in some specific areas like Sydney for certain flathead species, they are always present and catchable, especially in sandy or muddy areas of estuaries, rivers, and coastal flats. During the heat of the day, they might slide into deeper gutters or seek shaded water around snags. Look for drop-offs, channel edges, and areas where baitfish are sheltering. Their ambush predatory nature means they're always hiding in wait. For flathead, soft plastics are incredibly effective, especially grub tails or paddle tails, worked slowly along the bottom with a lift and drop retrieve. Small, hard-bodied lures can also work well, particularly when trolling along estuary edges. If you prefer bait, pilchards, strips of mullet or live prawns are excellent choices. Fished on a running sinker rig, concentrate your efforts around tide changes, especially the run-out, as they position themselves to ambush prey flushed out of cover. All right, friends, let's break down the conditions for this 7th of January, 2026. Across large parts of Australia, especially inland areas of Western Australia, South Australia, Victoria and New South Wales, we're seeing a severe heat wave with temperatures potentially soaring to 45, even 48 degrees Celsius. For coastal cities like Sydney, expect daytime maximums around 26 to 29 degrees Celsius and nighttime minimums of 19 degrees Celsius. We're looking at generally light to moderate winds, mostly easterly to southerly, around 4 to 11 miles per hour for coastal areas. While Sydney itself looks dry with 0 millimeters of rain predicted for the 7th, keep an eye out for isolated thunderstorms and passing showers, especially around the broader east coast, as summer weather can be unpredictable. This heat means fish in shallower, exposed waters will be less active during the peak sun, seeking deeper, cooler spots or shaded cover. The good news for coastal anglers is that pressure systems appear relatively stable, which often means consistent fishing, but those localized storms could certainly shake things up. As I mentioned earlier, the water is warm, and that's an understatement. Sea surface temperatures around Australia have been abnormally high, more than 0.8 degrees Celsius above average since 2023. For our eastern waters, like Sydney, you're looking at average sea temperatures around 22 degrees Celsius, peaking near 25 degrees. In Melbourne, it's about 20 degrees Celsius. This elevated temperature is fantastic news for warm water species, stimulating their metabolism and encouraging aggressive feeding, especially during the cooler parts of the day. However, in very shallow, exposed areas, extremely high water temperatures can make fish lethargic, so keep that in mind. Now let's talk about the moon. On the 7th of January 2026, we're in the waning gibbous phase. The moon's illuminated surface is around 78 to 85% and steadily decreasing about 4 days after the full moon. Many anglers believe that the period after the full moon, as it wanes, can be a time of good, steady fishing as the fish continue to feed actively after the brightness of the full moon. The reduced moonlight at night compared to the full moon might encourage more daytime feeding, especially for those species that are light shy. While not always a guaranteed predictor, a stable moon phase after a full moon often means more consistent fish behavior. Considering all these factors, the intense summer heat inland, warm coastal temperatures, generally stable local weather with a chance of isolated storms and a waning gibbous moon, my overall assessment for the 7th of January 2026 is a good to capricious. Bite. Pelagic species like kingfish, mackerel and tuna should be active thanks to those warm currents and abundant bait. Whiting will be very active in suitable areas. Flathead will be around, but might be a bit more challenging during the hottest parts of the day. The heat wave means fish will be seeking cooler, deeper water during midday or concentrating their feeding efforts in the early mornings and late afternoons. Stay flexible with your timings, chase those cooler water pockets, and you should find some fantastic fishing. So there you have it, my friends, your comprehensive fishing forecast for Wednesday, the 7th of January 2026 across Australia. It's shaping up to be a hot one, but with plenty of opportunity for those who know where to look and what to throw. I wish you all tight lines, ni quosta ni cheshwi. That's neither tail nor scale for my non-Russian speaking mates. If you found this forecast helpful, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring that notification bell so you don't miss any of my upcoming tips and predictions. And tell me in the comments below, what are your plans for fishing this week? What's your favorite summer species to target in Australia? I love hearing your stories and insights. Until next time, stay safe, have fun, and catch some absolute monsters